Okay, this is Calcat the Calcatster on the set of Starship Locations. But yeah, they're putting together the first and second episode of this season. But here we're talking about something entirely different. Strange New Worlds, episode 7 of this season, season 3. What is Starfleet? I took down some notes. So a little backstory. One of my degrees was journalism, and in 2008. And this episode is basically, let's do a journalism episode. Sort of a thriller journalism, not quite war correspondent, but kind of implying. I wasn't that, but in the story they're spoofing that. There's the Lutani and the Jakari. That does sound familiar, but I think it's just one of those Star Trek names like Turellian. They're this space whale dragon being used as a weapon. It's very similar to some of the Star Trek books that have done that. A couple of them have done that. But they're not borrowing from the books directly. The episodes, there's a space whale dragon thing, and Starfleet's to capture it for this other alien race. I don't know why that would be the case, and they have to take it to the other aliens. The other aliens show up and they kind of ruin the ruse by saying they're going to use it as a weapon. It's kind of silly. Why would they do that? If it was silly Trek, I'd say, okay, yeah, like the space weapon again, MacGuffin again. But in this case, they sort of switch that out and have it say like, they were tagging it as they raised it as a monstrous creature to be a space weapon. The bad guys did. And the crew figures this out through their mental link to it, similar to, and of course, similar to other stories. Macross, the space whale, Macross, the Macross series, the Macross 7, exclusively, and Macross Dynamite. But I don't think they've watched those two shows. I think they're probably borrowing from Mass Effect again, and a little bit of Halo. I think that's where they were getting that from. So the games, they were getting it from other games, not from Macross. I think it's a coincidence. They were thinking along the same lines. They weren't thinking Starcrackers until the Vanguard-like scene where the character unalives itself to get away from being a weapon. Don't want to be shot into a sun. There was a very similar scene in Space Vanguards from last season in one of my series, where the bad guy, except that in that case the bad guy's ship is tossed into a sun by Raxler, who pulls him into the sun on purpose. Raxler dies heroically at the last minute, changing the timeline forever from that series, because we only wanted to do one season instead of doing 2 seasons with him and then doing more, and then a third one that had nothing to do with him. Prospectors, which would have been cool too, but we ended up not doing that. I just wanted to do the one trilogy, like we did the Canary Space, the one quadrology. We did 4 of them. It would have been a trilogy, but it's just very long, so it was a mini-series. So the same kind of idea. I don't think they were thinking of that though. I don't think they were just thinking, well, Mass Effect and the Admonition and all that stuff. Same thing with the space orchids in that Picard episode, Mass Effect, and the Admonition, Mass Effect, this tentacle Cthulhu beating, Mass Effect, and some other games that are like it. So we weren't thinking of that. So yeah, we had that going on. I think that's the plot of the story. I'm gonna make this short because I want to get back to editing the episodes 11 and 12 of Starship Locations. And so we can put them up online on the weekend. And so we have, it's Thursday today, and so some of the comments here are funny. The news reporter is supposed to be Ortega's brother, running on the ship with a little headset camera, taking pictures. And it's like, why isn't this guy immediately thrown in the brig for recording stuff he shouldn't? It is supposed to be a pseudo-military ship, and he shouldn't be allowed to do any of that stuff. The worst journalist ever. He keeps recording the halfway conversations and stuff. I get what they're doing. They're doing a found footage war journalism story, and that worked a little too well, I think, in terms of you can't tell what's going on. Yeah, they won't be doing these anymore because CBS and CBS bowed down to the current administration and after the Colbert incident, and they're kind of not going to be allowed to do it anymore. So yeah, which is taking off the other Trekkies who are out there who are like, now they need to do a political thriller where they make fun of our current administration. To which I had said in the comments on the other blog, on the other channel, that wouldn't work as a story, not just because, I would be all for it, but it wouldn't work because you have, it would be dated immediately. Okay, yeah, they did that, yeah. And on another channel, they pointed out that the reason the Star Wars Andor series was popular, I didn't watch it, so let's say it was popular. It was apparently very good, because it was a political thriller where the evil empire becomes the evil empire in the thriller. See? So it works for Star Wars. It just doesn't work for Star Trek because it's not an evil empire. It doesn't work. They'd have to go to a planet where there's an evil empire, the Terrans or something, which they were trying to do with Section 31 over there in Star Trek, but they didn't quite have it right. I think that movie would have worked better had they said the whole thing was actually in the mirror universe. From the beginning to the end of that movie, it's not our universe, it's the mirror universe the entire time. She sent back to the mirror universe, not to our universe. Then that would make sense. And also, if it was not set where it was, and they didn't have Rachel Garrett. There's so many things. Space Lady Hitler, she's not cool. Well, I have a story centered around her. Starfleet Academy being set further on. Same problem. Star Trek cannot be a quasi-military group that has space cadets running around. That's too silly Trek-like. It's too lower decks. Fan films can do that. Our stuff can do that because the other fan films. Lower Decks is someone's fanfic. It really is a fanfic. And there's ways around that fanfic story and all that. But that's another thing. That's another rant. So yeah, political thriller wouldn't work. Journalism thriller wouldn't work because you have just the way it's structured. It just doesn't. I'd be okay with making fun of the administration, but that's fine. But they would get canceled immediately. But but yes, this episode was not very good. I know they love the found footage stuff. They did a little too well. This episode was jarring, but not in the way that it was shocking in any way, because you couldn't tell what was going on. You had people going this and that, this and that. They doubled down, tripled down, and quadrupled down on bad line of sight in this episode. He's a camera operator. If he was a camera operator back in 2008, he would have flunked out of the camera class by Mr. Cheers. He would have been, you were really bad at aiming that camera at anything. You gotta put the guy in the shot and all that. It would have just been completely. And if Mr. Cheers is still around, I'm just trying to imitate the voice, not the intonation. So, but yes, not making fun of you if you're still out there. You were a good teacher. You had the cameras up, not film teacher. Because when I had filmed at Evergreen, it was like, well, they had the dark rooms back then in the 90s, but by the time the 2008 rolled around, the second degree, they were using digital stuff, and I thought, I don't need to go in a dark room anymore. Great. I'll actually pass the class now. Ironically, I didn't actually do any filming in that. I took some pictures, but they had me doing reports and stuff instead. That's fine. That's fine. But I did take a good picture. One or two. But yeah, the alien weapon deciding to off itself, Control Alt Delete itself at the end. It was just kind of right out of Starcrackers. And out of the Mass Effect story. Lutani. Sounds like Utani. Maybe it's like Weyland Yutani, like aliens. Yeah. They look like devil people. They got like horns. So taking them back. But the horns are going back like a goat horn. Not pointy in the front. Front goat, but back like a ram. Like, ram people. Kind of neat looking. Looked like a little Borg, kind of. Melted Borg people. Gray looking. They looked cool, but there weren't enough of them. So. And Pike's reasons for threatening the alien guy didn't really make any sense, and then they kind of turn it around because he's kissing up to the powers that be. They're kind of doing a metaphor for what's going on in CBS and Skydance. But this story was clearly created like a year ago, putting it together. About when mine going same time. So yeah, we have it's kind of a mess. Worst journalism ever. And very messy. Yeah, the most of that story would have been redacted and stuff. We know the characters do what they do for a reason. We know what their pseudo-military navy, space navy. They're not going to allow this guy to put out a video about them. That space navy. They're not going to do that. Even the Space Air Force wouldn't do that. But yeah, I did. The line of sight thing is just really, really bad all the way through. They have characters that's heads are cut off on the left and the right, zooming in super close-ups. I know they like those. I'm doing a close-up here. This is a proper close-up. See? A proper close-up. You don't want to go up so close that their eyeballs are like in the screen. You can see right up their nose. Proper close-up. And we know that they can do it because when they get somebody like Jonathan Frakes or something, we know they can do it. He does it well, and that Ling guy kind of does it well, and that other lady does it well. But the other they just, other than this particular episode, they went crazy with the line of sight because they heard about last season, watching my reviews, and were like, yeah, we're really gonna do it this time. We're gonna do it all over the place. It's like you didn't learn from the visuals. Don't do that. And what's with the like half cuts and jump cuts and things and jump scares that aren't there and stuff? And guys, just no. Yeah, this found footage stuff just looks like bad. Don't do that. I'm okay with them doing an episode story about that kind of thing. They just have to do it right. Yeah, they have to shoot it right. Thinking back to a journalism episode of Star Trek, you probably have to go back to the Menagerie, where the classic Trek, where they had the lawyer interviewing the crew, and they sort of wrapped it around the original The Cage, and you can visually see everything. Everyone's in the room, they're in frame. It's the '60s, and they put everybody in there, and showed this earlier version of Star Trek in there, and they had the background, and that one, the kid Menagerie. Actually, the episode where last season they were in a courtroom, and they were and they kind of dropped some of that and said like later, wait a minute, isn't like that other lady had augment powers or something? But then they said Lion Singh is descended from augments. Why is she allowed to be there? They kind of didn't make sense. But that episode was filmed well. They framed that well. This one not so much. And then the current Uhura doesn't look anything like the old school Uhura at all. But that's not a problem, other than like her daughter or something. But yeah, her granddaughter. But sure, that's not a problem really. Pike's space weapon. Wouldn't they have known about that? It's like sometimes they go into these situations in a Star Trek story where they're like clearly, okay, we going into the situation that doesn't make sense because we weren't told in the log entries. You would think that they would be. Okay, yeah. Nitpicking the crap out of it because it's a really bad episode. Of course, some of the ADHD fans will be like, "Oh, this is great! I can't tell what's going on." Like, no, that's not good storytelling. You couldn't tell what was going on because they were all over the place. It's just worst journalism ever. What were they trying to say in the episode besides the classic Star Trek idea? Yeah, the space dragon is being used as a weapon. Great, classic Star Trek idea. Great, but you muddled it so badly with the visuals that and the audio the audio is in there too. That it's like, really, okay, you did this a little too well. He's had the camera behind the scenes, like hiding behind the camera bag, filming the guy, and a couple of scenes there, and it's like, no, that's not usable footage in a report. You can't do that. That's like surreptitious spy camera shit. And you'd think the ship would be wired for spy cameras everywhere anyway. So they just tap into that. They have cameras everywhere because it's a spaceship. There'd be restricted areas and shit because it's like a Navy ship. Yeah. Control Alt Delete idiot. Yes. And in some of the current Shives, the other ones, the Red Letter Media, and some of the others are complaining that they can't say certain things on YouTube or they get flagged, but some of them don't get flagged for the same like comments. Yeah, the YouTube algorithm is buggy. In fact, this week, the comment section all across the board has been down for everybody's comments. Yeah, just gonna get rid of the comments. That'll really glut the entire commentary thing. But people won't be able to, it would just be like if they don't fix that, it'll be like it'll be like a streaming service, basically. Don't want any comments. Even the big name people will lose their ass. So what is it? How are the Cal-Cat channels doing? Are they going to lose their butt from having no comments in AdSense? We won't. Actually, no. Our channels will be fine because our stuff is never AdSensed. Yeah, we're not making any revenue on our YouTube videos, so we're still good. Continue to like, subscribe, and watch our videos. We're fine. We've never done any ad revenue on YouTube. It's been a while since there was any of that. It's been several years. It's been almost 8 years since there's been anything like large scale subscribe. But please subscribe to the channel. One of the few under the table influencers of YouTube, where we go to conventions locally and they say, "There's that Cal-Cat guy." Yes. Not this August. We are not going to be at BayCon, at GalaxyCon. No, we're going to Disneyland. I'm going to cover that. I'm going to be shills for the Disney people and the Disney Star Wars people, and see what we can do about doing a Star Wars for them. And sure, right. And then we'll go over to it'll be yet another canceled Kathleen Kennedy Star Wars project. Another one canceled. And Mark Cars says, "Oh, no more member berries. Don't put member berries for Star Wars. Don't have Mara Jade show up and redeem the sequels." And although your Jar Jar Binks idea was hilarious, it's like, yeah, the original version of but that's another series. But because Red Letter Media was talking about Star Wars and going on about that, about how they liked Red Letter Plinkett on Red Letter Media liked the Acolyte, the character Plinkett liked the Acolyte, and he liked Andor. And like, well, my version of Rise of Skywalker would have been basically that they push over Palpatine at the very end because they had to include Palpatine for some reason. I told JJ, don't include Palpatine. That's stupid. Don't have her be a Palpatine. Have her just be unknown. Creates a can of worms, for Star Wars. But if you're gonna do that, JJ Abrams, here's what you do. At the end, you push him over. He's a puppet. Behind him is the Dark Lord of the Sith, controlling the whole thing. And it's Jar Jar Binks. He's been corrupted by the Force. He's a bad guy now. And he's all, Misa do the whole thing. Misa the evil Darth Sidious all along. It's redeemed with a space ghost. Oh. Also, there's Luke and Leia and Han. Only because of Disney things. That's all we're rambling about Palpatine. Don't do the member berries. Ah! But yes, so this other story, yeah, there's our Star Wars. Throw it in the end. Yeah, this episode was just not very good, so I decided to rant about something else. Yeah, I wonder what they're going to do with the Spock one and the puppet one. This is episode 7. They have only 3 more, so, this season. I think that this season should be it, and they should stop with Strange New Worlds. And not do a season 4. They should stop. They have so gone in a different direction with this season that they should stop. They should be... And not because it's doing... I don't mind it doing woke stuff. That's fine. They're just not doing it right. I'm sure the characters love being on the show and getting paid, and that's fine. But let's establish that Secret Hideout's universe is a different universe than the classic Trek. That Discovery from 2017 on is a different timeline in the multiverse. This Enterprise is clearly different. These people are clearly different. There's a sister of Spock out there somewhere. They tried to introduce the Cybok and didn't really work. They tried to introduce these other things, didn't really work. The Gorn, that doesn't really work. But yeah, if they are listening, whether writing season 4, let it be known, you have to fix that Gorn thing. And yeah, as I suggested in my stuff, in my fan films, they're not the Gorn. They are a race of Gorn that have been contaminated by the Regulon bloodworms to have this weird birth life cycle thing going on. They're not the Gorn. That's stupid. That alien thing doesn't work. That just doesn't work. It really doesn't. Have them say like, okay, the Regulon bloodworm children are like infecting them. And that's how the parasite reproduces. Yeah, Regulon bloodworms. And once McCoy shows up and cures them, then it's okay. I thought that's what they're going to do with that like alternate doctor guy, but then they blew out his eyes and become a zombie. That wasn't going to be McCoy. No, just so you know. Also, that scene where the Kirk is on a bridge. It's the Farragut. Trek Yards called it though during the preview. They're all, that's the Farragut. That's not the Enterprise. They called it. I was like, I'm not going to tell you guys what ship that is because I know it's. But you guessed right. Just let's say you guessed right. It was a Farragut. But yeah, it wasn't the Enterprise because they looked at the screen. Yeah, why do they put the heads-up displays right behind the captain, where the enemy can like zoom in and go, oh look, there's the readouts for the whole ship right there on the display. MSD right behind them. Tell what all the damage is when we're attacking the ship. There it is. That's probably a really bad idea. Yeah, you don't want the enemy ships to see the threat boards and your space navy. Yeah. Strange New Worlds. They're all Palpatines.